Hello, Mr. Andrew.
Hey Bart, how are you?
Hey, you got another good one here too for me. Andrew was a late add-on, and this is another nice little hand here too, if I remember correctly. So where's this one played out of?
So this is 2-5 in Seminole, Hard Rock, Hollywood in South Florida.
SHR. And I said, I have not been down there for quite some time. I used to go down when they did that 10 million guarantee tournament in the mid-2000 teens, but they haven't done that in a while. So Florida, okay.
Yeah, the max buy-in is about 1,000. Sorry, it's 1,000.
Yep.
But we're pretty deep in this hand. We're 2,300 effective.
2,300 effective, okay.
So the game had been really splashy, more than usual. I mean, right now there's a WPT series down here. Especially, I think it started last Wednesday, so the action has been a lot crazier than usual.
Okay.
So the hijack, who I consider a VIP, a huge whale, he's been, raising 90% of hands. 3-bet with 3 deuce offsuit. He makes it 35.
Straight 35 at 2-5.
Yes.
Big open, okay.
Yes. Normally he had been open to 25, but this was a big open for him. He went to 35.
Mm-hmm.
Cutoff calls. And hero, I'm in the small blind with ace of hearts, 3 of hearts.
Okay.
And I decide to call.
So I remember we've had some of these calls recently where I was talking about incentives, right? In the 7X open here. A couple things going on here. My first inclination was you could just fold to a 7X open, right? You have no incentive here. I mean, you're in for 2. It's a huge open, and you can just best hand people that make these types of open sizes. My second, though, thought here, depending on what the deal is with the cutoff, is that a lot of times people will telegraph the nature of their hand by their sort of raise sizing. And this could be a lot of like medium-ish types of type of holdings, especially if you think that this guy's usually opening to 25, like 9s, 10s, something like that. And you have some dead money out there from the cutoff. You could 3-bet this hand here. And if hijack calls, even if cutoff calls, you've got quite a collapsed range where I feel like you can bet on a fair amount of overcards and just take it down. So I kind of like either 3-bet or folding more than calling because of the large open size here. Again, it's somewhat hard to realize with a hand like this from out of position multi-way, and it is a very, very large open. So that's my take.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. In hindsight, I should have probably 3-bet or fold, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But my thought in game was like, I don't want to 3-bet and then maybe have 2 callers out of position with a hand that's, not that strong.
Right. It's not that strong, but I think there's other things going on here. Like I said, that double flat from the cutoff is kind of collapsed, and this guy seems to have a midish to middle pair. I mean, that was my take. But all right, so you call big blind folds and you're off 3 ways, right, at 105?
No, the big blind calls as well.
Oh, wow. Big blind calls. Okay. So 4 ways. Okay. So like 140.
Yes, 140 in the pot.
Okay.
And the flop comes 7 of hearts, 6 of diamonds, 2 of hearts.
So you flop the nut flush draw.
Yes.
With a little bit of backdoors for some backdoor straight draws, because if a 4 or a 5 come in, you pick up a straight draw. And you have an overcard too. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I check. Big blind checks. The VIP in the hijack makes it 80.
Okay.
The cutoff folds.
Mm-hmm.
And then here I decided to raise it to 240.
Well, it's funny that we've been dealing with a lot of these small blind scenarios for some reason today. And it's one of these things where if the guy is in a VIP in the hijack, all bets are off. He's not doing the kind of hand reading that we would be doing if we were in his position. And especially if I would never open to 7X, but if you somehow transported me to the hijack spot right now and I had an overpair, you, as the hero, are repping such a thin range here of pretty much only sets for value because you shouldn't really have 7-6 suited here. I would never release in this particular spot. Now, if you think that the hijack is kind of quote unquote monkey c-betting, and what I mean by that is he just c-bets any board without regard for the situation, without regard for the fact that the board's low, without regard for the fact that it's 4 ways, you could show an immediate turn here by check raising and getting him off of like a better ace high. I don't know if that's the case necessarily. You see that a lot in tournaments from guys that just monkey c-bet. monkey see, monkey do, for large sizing. So I would tend to maybe not check raise as much for those reasons. But if you did think that he was sort of doing a lot of non-thoughtful c betting, then maybe I can get on board with it.
Yeah, that's my exact thought. I thought he could be betting anything, even a 7 or even a 6. Like I seen him even bet here ace deuce. I mean, he was really out there.
Okay, so you go to 240.
Yes, the big blind calls the 240.
Oh God, big blind cold calls. Interesting. Okay.
Yes, and then the hijack calls as well.
So now you guys have put in 7, and of course you're, when I say thin value, as one of our content creators, Nate, points out in the chat, you're repping a flush draw. Yeah, it's sets or you got a combo draw, basically, which is why I would continue if I had an overpair if I was the hijack. But you guys put in 720 here on the turn, so it looks like the pot is 860 three ways on the flop, excuse me. So it looks like the pot's 860 three ways to the turn.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have 860 in the middle.
Yep.
And the turn is a 3 of clubs.
Okay. 3 of clubs here on the turn. So the only thing that changes is the fact that 4-5, which was open-ended, the bottom end of an open-ended straight draw comes in. But again, I don't know how much of that. I mean, you're not calling with 5-4 of hearts to 7x, are you, pre, in the small blind?
Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't necessarily know that, but I'm just pointing that out. Somehow, I don't know, the big blind might have the 4-5 of hearts, but I mean, that's a hand that might cold call a check raise on the flop, right? The 4-5 of hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big blind, a little bit background on the big blind, he was more competent than the hijack, but still pretty splashy. So, I mean, he's strong, obviously cold calling me, but I thought he could still be wide and not just like super knotted in this position when he overcalls my check raise on the flop.
I see this scenario here as one of two options. I mean, the thing right off the bat that everyone's going to think of is that guy should be really, really strong here. You've got the big blind cold calling. You've got the hijack overcalling. His hand is skewed towards overpairs because you have the nut flush draw. I mean, he could have some like king high and queen high flush draws and stuff like that, but you block, you've got the ace high flush draw. I mean, this should be reflected a lot of times with a check. You could block/stop bet turn here and freeze these guys. The only concern that I have with that is that you're probably still going to get raised by a set from the big blind, which I think he's got a lot of sets here. So what I'm saying is if you check and then you're going to face a large bet where you're trying to figure out whether or not you're going to call, or you might play a name your price bet here on the turn. But with the big blind cold calling here, I still think you're going to get raised a lot. So I sort of tend to go with option 1 here, is reflected here with the check. Even if you had a plan to try to barrel off the hijack from overpairs, something has changed here critically in the hand that you had no control over, which was the fact that the big blind cold calls. That should be a super strong type of range. There's no way that you're going to get through with a big bet both players here on the turn, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this is where I think I made the biggest mistake. Yeah, I should have checked, but I went 425.
Yeah, I think that's not a stop bet. Hero bets 425. Okay.
And then the big blind calls as well.
Big blind calls. So you could be up against a lower flush draw here. Okay.
And the hijack calls as well. So we're still 3 ways.
So call. You guys put in 1275 here on the turn. So the pot is 2135 going to the river, and it looks like you've got 625, 1500 left or something?
Yeah, 1600 behind. Yeah. They both have me covered, so I'm the shortest stack, but yeah, around 1600.
Okay.
And the river is an interesting one. Is the 3 of diamonds, so I make trips.
Wow. Well, I think that let me break down what I think the ranges are here, right?
Okay.
So the hijack is either is holding on with an overpair, right? Or he's busted out on lower hearts than you have. So you're all good against the hijack here, right? I think.
I agree against the hijack.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the question here is that is the big blind sandbagging a set, like a set of sevens or a set of sixes or a set of deuces that didn't raise off here on the turn? There's another hand, though, actually, that he can have that you now beat, which is 7-6, right? He had 7-6. The fact that he didn't raise off here on the turn, now he might have like deuce-deuce and he might be scared or something like that. He also didn't raise, he just cold called, didn't raise turn here. And he also can have those combo draws that were lower than yours that have just missed, like a hand like 8-5 of hearts, 8-9 of hearts, and then you've got the hijack having the overpair behind you. So you've got just under 1,600 left. The pot's 2135. I mean, I think you could probably go 800 here. 800. And then for some reason, if the big blind jams on you, it's a very easy fold. You leave yourself a little bit of an escape hatch. I mean, it's a bet fold of 800 against that guy. And then you ensure you might, if the guy has 7-6, who knows? He might call too, and then you get the hijack to overcall with an overpair. That's what I kind of like 800 here and leave myself an escape hatch. Now, you only have 1,600. You could also make a case where you could say, I'm going to lose to the big blind some of the time against a set of sixes or a set of deuces, but I think the hijack might always call with an overpair. So I could shove and get the hijack to call with an overpair. It's somewhat complex math. You'd have to really look at the combos of how often those things are going on. I mean, there's 6 combos of sixes and deuces here. So you could value cut yourself here against the hijack. And then you also throw out probably getting called here by 7-6. And you don't know if the hijack's going to call an all in. That's kind of why I like the 800 sizing here. And again, you might not even get, I mean, you're big blind. He might just still call with sixes and deuces. Like you could bet 800 here, have the big blind call and lose to the big blind some of the time. But I still think you're going to get called by worse more often to make this a profitable bet here. I would not check here. It doesn't seem to me. And of course, the big blind could be sandbagging, I guess, 4-5, like the ultimate nuts. You lose to that too. But I still think because the hijack is so whaley and is going to call with overpairs from behind, I like an $800 bet here.
Yeah, I really like the reasoning behind it, but I did not think that in game. So yeah, at that point, I mean, once I go check raise, the big blind overcalls, and he also calls next to act on the turn, I'm quite concerned about him.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to check. Actually, I thought in my mind, it's not the right reasoning, but in my mind I thought like it was probably an all in or fold, because I think, or what I thought was like if I bet 800 and somebody goes all in, I'm probably pot committed.
Well, the case that I would make for checking here, and again, I don't agree with it necessarily. I think it's probably it's probably close. The case for checking here is you're going to check fold to the big blind's bet. You think the big blind has you beaten more often than you have him beaten. That would be the case for the check fold because of the cold call. Okay, that would be why you would check. You'd check fold to the big blind, basically, is what the play would be. I don't think the hijacks, it's never going to go check, hijack, jams. I mean, that would be really interesting if it went check, hijack, jams. I mean, I think you'd call against the hijack. I don't know if he's going to play 7s and 6s this way. I think he just gets it in on the turn. Like he's bluffing like, busted hearts. But so you've got check because you're going to check fold to the big blind and maybe check to pick off a hijack bluff with lower hearts. I still think betting is more profitable though. And then if it just goes check, you're going to win. And you might have lost some value here. What happens? So you check.
Yeah, I check. Big blind tanks for a while, but then he throws the bet of 1,300.
And then what does the hijack do?
The hijack insta-mucks.
Insta-mucks, which is interesting because with the hijack, talking about like some bet pacing timing, hijack insta-mucking is more consistent with him actually missing a draw as opposed to him having an overpair, which of course leans the big blind to not have a missed draw. And it just doesn't seem like the big blind's going to have a missed draw here because the big blind's got to worry that the hijack has an overpair and is always calling right at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, as played here, I think this is a fold. What's funny is that I'm advocating for betting, right? The river.
Yeah.
But I think this is a check fold now when he bets. And again, it goes to that whole thing of you can check with the intention of check folding, but you're still going to win 90% of the time if it goes check, check. But if the opponent bets, given the action, you're probably not good.
Yeah, that was the reasoning that I had. And yeah, when the other guy insta-mugged, I thought about it for a little bit, but I mean, I don't see him value betting any worse, and he would have to be really out there.
I mean, all right, let's look at the pot odds here. I mean, pot odds are 3,600 for 1,300. So
Yes.
You're getting almost 3-1. So you have to be good here 1 out of 4 times. And again, you basically beat busted combo draw hearts, which would be what, like the 8-5 of hearts, the 8-9 of hearts, maybe the 9-10 of hearts, if those hands are still in there. And he would have to bluff those hands with what looks like a VIP whale fishy guy calling with an overpair behind. That's what really concerns me here.
Yeah, exactly. Like once he bet into 3 people here, I mean, I really thought he had me beat. So I ended up tanking, and I folded in the end in the river.
And then did you get a reveal?
Yeah, so the hijack, the whale, he had 9-8 of clubs, so he was open-ended.
Okay.
And then the big blind had a set of 6s, so
there you go.
So he had a full house on the river. Yeah.
So if you had played the hand the way that I'm advocating, you would have lost more money. You would have lost 800.
Yes or no? Because maybe I 3-bet pre-flop too, and he's out.
No. I'm talking about on the river.
Oh, yeah.
On the river, you would have lost 800. Either jams or calls, and then you're just out of there. But I still think that. Oh man, I'm trying to think here. So if he has 2 combos of 7-6 suited that he gets there at the end with, he has 8-9, 8-5, some 9. Boy, it's really close. Because if you throw in some 4-5s there, but he probably raises off. See, what got me is him raising off the turn some of the time though with sets.
I thought he would raise on the turn to with some sets.
It's probably closer on the river than man, it's really close. I mean, I always love to go for thin value, and the reason why I'd like to bet at the end is because I still think the hijack's calling with an overpair for 800. But somebody might be able to convince me that maybe check folding is better if he's always flat calling with all these hands on the turn, and that he actually might have you beaten more than him having 7-6 or a busted draw. It's pretty close. But I do think the river's a fold for sure.
Yeah, I think if maybe he bet like, I don't know, 600-700, and probably have to call, but 1,300, I mean, even for this splashy game was a really big bet.
Yeah.
I don't see how I'm good there. But
yeah. And then you know what's funny here too, Andrew, is you get right. What really makes your head turn is like if he had bet, like you said, like a little bit less, like 1,000, right? Something like that. And then the hijack calls because you beat the hijack. So
yes.
Now all of a sudden you're getting better pot odds, right? If he goes 1,000 and then it goes call, now it's 41-35, 1,000 for you to call. And then the question becomes, is this guy bluffing 1 out of 5 times, right?
Yes. Then it would get really interesting. Yeah. But even if he checked and the hijack went all in, like I think I probably call next to Ag there.
Oh yeah, I don't think the hijack. Yeah, I think you have to call against the hijack. Very interesting hand. Little aggressive on the flop, but and then like I said, 7x open incentives pre-flop, interesting too. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.